Welcome to Blue Steel Boxing Academy. My name is Omar Daoud, and I'm a coach and a co-founder of Blue Steel Boxing. My number that you can reach me at is 330-983-7754. This is Coach Juan.
Coach Juan Jones, also the co-founder of Blue Steel Boxing Academy. My number is 330-604-1500, and we're on here making this dedication to Doyle Baird. It's the toe-to-toe boxing show. June 26, 7 p.m. Doors open up at 6 o'clock down at Lot 3.
And the weigh-ins is at 5. So if you see this video and you want to get on that show, you give us a call at one of those numbers. When me and Juan started Blue Steel Boxing Academy, we wanted to do something special in Akron. We've been doing this for like 10 years, and some of the fight shows be spread out. And we don't have a lot of fight shows in Akron the way they used to do. In the 70s and in the 80s, there was at least 4 to 3 gyms on each side of town. It was lovely back in that era. So we came up with the idea of doing a fight show dedication. And the first person we thought of was Doyle Baird, because he fought at the Akron Rubber Bowl in 1968. I wanted to bring that back to Akron, to where we can have multiple fight shows. So that's the first dedication. The second dedication is going to be to a very talented young man that was from Akron, and his name is Todd Hickman. So all these fight shows is going to come about, and the dates and everything will come at a later date. But Doyle Baird was a very great fighter. He's still living today. He worked in the community. He retired from the Akron Beacon Journal, and he trains kids, and he's still training kids today. So this is why we want to give this dedication to Doyle Baird at Lot 3. June 26th, toe-to-toe fight show. Make sure you come out.
Well, a friend of mine, his father was a trainer, Tommy Benz, and his son says, "Come on out and fight for my dad." He says, "You always say you're so tough, we'll find out." So the first night that I fought Ray Anderson, and I lost my first amateur fight, and they really used to rib me about that, man, because I was supposed to be so tough, right? But Ray Anderson, I think, is still alive, and he was a big influence because I always wanted to beat him. He beat me, I beat him. In fact, we had a 5-round fight in the amateurs, which is a long distance, and I beat him in 5 rounds, and I was real happy. I didn't do too much boxing in my younger days. I think I was a brawler. That's what they used to say. More than a boxer, I was more of a brawler.
Doyle Baird has only one style of fighting. He comes in. Doyle never goes back. Baird hard right to the side. Good shot.
Fade Davis is probably the most beneficial guy I ever boxed with. He was a real good welterweight. He fought Reuben Carter, but he got stopped, and he beat he fought Curtis Coates. He fought a bunch of guys. He had a great record, and he taught me more than anyone else. I don't know what really provoked me into boxing. I just wanted to try it and see how I could do. And then other people kept talking me into trying more. And so I kept trying.
I got a call to come to a show in Akron. I'd been doing some shows there, and they told me about a real good amateur to take a look at. And the kid was a black kid. I heard double tough, could punch like hell. And I came to the Akron Armory, and I'm there very anxious to see this kid. And boy, I watch, this guy walks out, hits this kid, all right, on the chin. Nothing happens. The guy keeps walking back in, hits him again, Nothing happens. All of a sudden, and of course it's Doyle Baird, Doyle lands a right hand and drops him, and he knocks him out. The place went ballistic. He had a hell of a problem there, but it was like one major upset. And I go back to the dressing room after, and I introduce myself. He said, I know who you are. I said, Doyle, I said, you got to turn pro. I said, you turn pro, and you're going to become a world champion. You will be fighting for the world title. He said, Don, I'm 26 years old. He says, I'm too old. I've been in prison. I said, Doyle, I'm telling you again, you're going to wind up being world champion. And he says, it's ridiculous. I said, it's not ridiculous. I said, I know my game, and you are something else. And I convinced him. And a short time later, I put the show on in Akron, and he fought Tommy Russell in his pro debut. And Tommy was a tough kid. He had he had 4 or 5 fights. He knocked him out. Place went ballistic, and we just started. All right, and it was he got his first loss. He got cut by Sam Sellers. I mean, the second the fight was over, he said, "Don, give me him again." I got him not once, but 2 more times. And Sam was his first 8-round fight. He knocked him out. Within about 9 or 10 fights, 11 fights or so, I put him in with a veteran by the name of Ernest Buford. And everyone said, Don, he's not ready. Buford fought Giardello. He fought Ruben Hurricane Carter. He fought some of the... And he went ahead and Doyle beat him. And then came Ted Wright. And Ted was a veteran, Emmanuel Stewart handled out of Detroit.
I believe his next fight was Ted Wright, who had been in with everybody. I mean, this guy was a globetrotter, and he had fought all the good fighters, all the good middleweights and welterweights. And Doyle won that fight.
Then came the famous Ben Venuti fight. Ben Venuti was he was the superstar of boxing in that time. Tremendous following, a king over in Italy, a world champion. And we had the fight being scheduled for 15 rounds for the world title at the Rubber Bowl. Then became a major problem on officials. And all of a sudden, they weren't coming over. And it got all over. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I don't think any of this was in the paper. It just got to be nonstop negotiations. And finally, I had to relinquish one official. They wanted to be able to pick 2. I said, absolutely not. So the fight, everyone thinks it's for the world title. It was knocked down to 10 rounds, and it was not a world title fight.
This was the first time I saw Doyle Baird fight. I had heard a little bit, somebody had mentioned about this guy from Akron. And I have to be honest, I went down there because it was a chance to see a world champion fight. I knew, I had seen Ben Venuti fight Emil Griffith and other fighters. Over the years, I saw him fight quite a bit. In fact, I saw him fight Luis Rodriguez and some of those others. And so someone says, boxing wasn't really booming around here by any stretch of the imagination, Cleveland or Akron. So someone says, hey, there's a title fight, and it's in Akron, and this Ben Venuti's fighting this Doyle Baird guy. So I truly went down there expecting, this isn't going to be much of a fight. And as the rounds went by, and Doyle just kept impressing me more and more. But the thing I noticed about Baird at the time, number one, I noticed, he was tough. Ben Venuti didn't seem to hurt him at all. And I kept waiting for the tide to turn. I wasn't anti-Doyle Baird. I just figured Ben Venuti's in a total different stratosphere from him. And it's going on, and I'm saying, hey, wait a minute. This guy might be winning the fight.
Doyle absolutely beat him, dropped him, won 7 out of 10 rounds. But because of the one official, the fight wound up being a draw. But it was still Lester Bromberg, then the most powerful writer. He was with the New York News or Mirror came down. The New York writers came. I mean, he was like the writer of the boxing era in those times. And he just talked about how Doyle got absolutely robbed. He won 7 out of 10 rounds. And he explained the situation, that the fight was in trouble then, simply because, you know, I wasn't coming up with the officials that Ben Benuti wanted.
I fought Nino Benuti, middleweight champion of the world at the Akron Rubber Bowl in 1968. That was probably one of my best fights. And I thought I won the fight. They gave it to me, and they ended up calling it a draw. But I was real happy with what I did.
The buzz all over the boxing world, the papers all over America, and they were talking about the biggest fight ever in the Rubber Bowl.
I mean, that was a highlight of Akron right then. I mean, nothing else surpassed Doyle Baird boxing, the world champion at the Rubber Bowl. Both of those are icons, you know, and that's that kind of put a spark in the boxing in the Akron area. Everybody wanted to be like Doyle. They wanted to come up and do the things that he did by going through the adversity that he went through his life and stuff, and to come up on top like he is, you know, and that was very inspirational to all of us younger kids and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, this was a happening. This was an event. This was the Super Bowl of Akron history, without question.
Everybody who's involved in boxing claims to have been at that fight, whether they really were or not. I think that, you know, that event was probably one of the greatest events that ever took place at the Rubber Bowl.
I said to myself, you know, man, this fight, I think it might go the distance. And I think Doyle's winning. I was going nuts, and the fans were going nuts.
I thought I did real good. I thought I had him on the floor with a body shot, but they called it a slip.
And Doyle caught him with a short right hook, and he went down. And for some reason or another the referee called it a slip, and there was no such a thing as slip. I saw that punch hit clear.
Oh, without question. Yeah, he dropped him. He dropped him.
But I thought I did real good. That was one of my best fights. Because I never dreamed that I would get the opportunities that I got. And then I started training a little bit too late, and my age was against me a little bit too. But I had a great time in boxing.
You know, Emil Griffith told me this is one of the toughest guys he ever fought. He said, boy, what a chin, what heart. He said, he made me fight. He made me dig in, really dig in. The fight was scheduled to take place in Cleveland. And then anyway, Emil won. But Doyle, again, just gave him all hell.
Griffith obviously hasn't lost much of his speed, that's for sure. Right hand caught him. Half on the shoulder, a little bit on the neck, but it caught the left side of that chin. Another one caught him. Two good rights by Doyle Baird here in the 6th round, and that left hook also slid off. He takes the right. Another right comes up short.
No matter what the situation was, I'd try to do my best and pull it out. Once in a while I did, sometimes I didn't.
You know, sometimes you got a fighter that has all the ability of the world and doesn't utilize it. Other times you have a fighter that doesn't have all the ability of the world, but they overcome a lot of that by determination and grit. And Doyle had grit.
I was working at Atlantic Foundry, and I started going down to the gyms to watch them work out, and then just slowly but surely I got involved in the training aspect. Me and Jimmy Rice and Don Hale was getting ready to leave town. Him and Jimmy Rice had a gym for years over at the Hale Rice, and Don Hale was leaving town, so I took his place and went to Doyle and Rice gym.
And I was working at the Atlantic Foundry. He come down there and got a job. And we've been pretty close together ever since.
Well, me and Bill McIntyre, we've had a pretty good relationship. We worked together for 10 years, and then he comes down here to the gym. Anytime I'm down here, he's here, but we're usually here 4 or 5 nights a week together.
My dad took me to a Golden Glove show, and we had a gym in close proximity to our house, and Doyle was running it, and I got hooked up with Doyle, and it was just like a match, you know. We hit it off real good from the beginning, and I remember my dad talking about him fighting at boxing at the Rubber Bowl, Benvenuti, and things like that, and that he was a well-known contender, #2 contender in the world, and I wanted to be trained by the best. So I picked Doyle, and he trained me to win a couple Golden Glove championships and a few other fights.
I first met Doyle Baird when I moved back to Akron, Ohio. I was training down at Big D's boxing gym, and trainer down there. I was a pro already, and I had about 6 or 7 fights. I was either 4 or 5-2. And he said, "Hey, you got too much ability to be messing around with me." He's like, "I'm gonna introduce you to this Doyle Baird, and I think that'd be the best guy around here to train you." So I met Doyle at that time, and it's been like a second father to me ever since.
I know they got this drive, and like my grandson, man, he's medicine sportsman, nothing like this. He works hard, he runs every day, comes down here, works out like crazy, and he does everything they tell him to. That's why he's winning.
I've been down here for about 5.5, almost 6 years now. Been fighting for the last 3 years or so. Had 9 fights. I fought for the lightweight high school boxing championship up in Cleveland at the Slovenian National Ballroom. And then my recent victories were I fought at the Cleveland area Golden Gloves and fought 2 fights to win the championship there for the 132-pound novice division.
Doyle volunteers all of his time. He doesn't make a nickel doing that, training the amateur fighters, and you know there's no pros even left in there, and Doyle's still plugging away. You know, we fund it, you know, we pay for it. We don't ask kids for, you know, to pay a monthly fee or anything to work out. You know, it's just my way of giving back to the sport that I love. The lessons that Doyle Baird taught to me through boxing, I think, are a lot of the reasons I'm successful in life. I have very successful alternative schools where I work with kids with behavioral problems and learning disabilities. Doyle was always there to help when people were in need of help, and I took that same approach as far as my schools go, as far as helping the kids, and just that you know, being persevering. Like, you know, early in my career I had some struggles, but you know, I fought real hard and stayed real dedicated, and I ended up being a very successful pro.
Just like I say, he was very inspirational, and it's 40 years, and I've been in boxing ever since because of Doyle Baird.
I think the legacy of Doyle Baird would be when you went to a Baird fight, you knew you were going to see a fight. You were going to see a performance. He was going to give his all, win, lose, or draw. You know, he had that toughness from the streets.
And even though Doyle is probably not in the top 50 greatest middleweights of all time, but I'll tell you something, he's in the top 10 of the toughest middleweights of all time.
Having them as coaches has definitely pushed me a lot farther than if I would have just been probably anywhere else.
Also, just as they said, I just want to thank Pops and Doyle for training me, honestly, just letting me come here and come down here for free and not charge anything.
I want to thank them for all the hard work, coming down every day for free, not asking anything for us, making us better people. Everyone that comes down here, they respect Doyle. They all think of him as family. He's more like a best friend and a mentor.
He touched a lot of young boxers and took them to the places where they thought they could never make it to. He gave them that heart and that insight that you can do it. you know.
And just Doyle Baird, the man, is just he's just an incredible individual. If you know anybody who's ever been associated with Doyle Baird is proud to have known Doyle Baird and proud to have been associated with him.
He's a heck of a good man to be around. He's polite, he's kind, he'll do anything for you.
Once you're in his circle, like, you know, there's nothing that he wouldn't do for you. And I know that a lot of people say this about a lot of people, but the truth of the matter is Doyle Baird would literally give you the shirt off his back. He's a great man. He's involved with my family and my kids to this day. You know, he's like a second father to me. I love you, Doyle, and I'm just, even though it sounds weird coming from me, I'm really proud of you and who you are.
Let me tell you something. He's a credit to boxing. He's a credit to people also, and he's a great credit to Akron.